Hello guys, Milner Trapper here. Today we're going to do a little something different. Like I said before in one of my previous videos, we're going to start doing a little different things. We're going to talk about trapping more when trapping season comes in. I may do some trapping here and there, but when it's 95, 100 degrees outside, it's difficult to go out and trap, and plus you know it's snake season. Just in the past week, we've come across 3 snakes just in my yard. So really don't feel like stepping on a snake. So we're going to talk about some worm composting a little bit here, some vermi castings and worm poop, whatever you want to call it. But I used to have, when I lived in the city, I lived on like a quarter of an acre, if that. And I built these worm bins in my backyard, and I grew over time. I made them out of wood. I grew over time from about 30 worms to about 700,000 worms in downtown from where I live and behind my house. So let me show you this system here that I think is a lot better, because for me, for you it could be different. See, I like this system because I can stack these up in my little barn or at the farm, stack them in the corner, and you can stack them this high as long as you have proper holes in it and proper you know, drainage and all those type of things. We'll get into drainage, and we'll get into that maybe in another video, or maybe this one, I don't know. But what I want to show you is the difference. This has been sitting for 2.5 weeks. I've had worms in it. This is a 5-gallon bucket. I probably filled it up. Now this one is a little different than what I usually use. I usually use just a bucket with holes in it, no drainage, because of what I feed them. See, that's a problem a lot of people don't understand, is when you feed worms, they react in different ways. You'll have a lot of drainage if you use like table scraps. If you feed your worms flour, meal, stuff like that, or perhaps even like I feed mine in the dry bucket system that I have. This is the wet bucket system that I have. I have a dry bucket system. This bucket, these buckets are specifically for stuff like table scraps and stuff that'll create a lot of liquid. Because when it breaks down, it'll get into the soil and the worms will get it, and it'll be real wet. And it has to have a way to drain. My other system, I don't need that, because I'm using a drier food source. And we'll get into all that. And people say, well, what about the bedding and what about that? I'll get into exactly what I use. A matter of fact, I'm going to start, just for the worms for these videos, I'm going to set up a new composting station at the farm. I've got one here at the house that I use, and the only thing I use as bedding is leaves. That's it. I used to go and get shredded paper and get paper from everybody and spend all my time doing stuff like that. But what I do is I create compost in compost bins that I make. When it breaks down, when compost actually breaks down and it's not hot, it actually is perfect environment for worms because of the bacteria that's in it. The worms get in it and they love it. They get in there and turn it into this golden soil. This is not sifted. So this soil that I'm going to show you today will go through a little sifter that I put over a wheelbarrow. I don't have a big round cylinder or shaker or none of that. Just a quick shake. What falls, what doesn't, go back into the compost. So what I have here, this is the wetter bucket system. I set it inside of a bucket just in case there's some liquid that's going to drain through. Now, the worms are great. Now let me show you up close. I live in Georgia, and the humidity is terrible. And this is a black bucket. I put it in a lean-to shade area outside, and all I have are all these little holes drilled around right here where they can't get out. I drilled holes in the bottom, as you can see. I don't know if you can see on the inside, I put screen in there for drainage. Now, just to let you see, I don't have that many worms in here. Okay, I don't really have that many. I mean, I'm gathering worms up right now. There's not I mean, I probably put 60 worms in here, and I'll probably end up on average, you want to put about, on average, look how healthy these worms are. On average, you want to put around, in a bucket system, you're not filling this bucket all the way up. These are red worms, like red wigglers and stuff like that. So they don't really need a lot of soil, really. A lot of the area to turn it into the great gold, black gold that you want. Now, you see these worms are healthy. They don't need, I mean, I gave them enough breathing area for them to function. Now, I'll take a bucket at some point. You also want to have buckets for your reproduction. Now, let me show you what I got. I start my compost, and this is right here. I'm going to show you what the worms do to your soil. You see this? This is what I start with. Leaves. I put this in my compost pile and I break it down, and this is what you get. See how dark that is? I'll sift that out and I'll make a fine soil to put in the garden, put in plants, to do whatever. And one day, my goal, not really my goal, is at some point I may even start selling some worms and sell some of this worm castings one day. Not right now. Right now I'm doing videos, guys. I'm entertaining you. So, in these videos, you can see these worms. I put about 60 worms in here. Matter of fact, I can read on the bucket. Give me a second. In this bucket, I put 64 worms. I got it wrote on here in the date. It's been in there for about 2.5 weeks, and it went from this, well, not quite this, but pretty close to this, the brown leaves, to this black gold. I did some experiments with these, with this soil, just to prove to everyone that worm castings will change your plants forever. I'll tell you what it did. I had a guy at work that had a problem with a cactus. He was having a competition with his mother-in-law So for some reason they had this big dispute about their cactuses. Well, his mother-in-law's cactus was growing and producing the thorns or whatever the crap cactuses do. And she kept ragging him because his wasn't doing nothing. Well, she was going and she was buying all kind of chemicals at the store to make her cactus become the cactus of all cactuses. So I said to him, I said, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'll bring you some of my worm castings, and you don't have to change your soil. You just layer the top of your they had them in containers, the top of your container about 3/4 to an inch thick of this. And then you water it. And then next week, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring you some brewed worm castings. They call it, worm castings tea or compost tea. To me, it's worm castings tea. I brewed him some up, and I'll show a video on how to do that. Took it to him. He said in 3 days' time, just from the worm castings, his thorns grew an inch. After he put the worm casting juice that I created for him on his plant, out of nowhere, it bypassed his mother-in-law's cactus plant. That's the power of this. Now, there's 3 things that I will feed my worms, and y'all can say what you want. I feed them rabbit poop if I feel like it. I feed them chicken, the chicken mash for laying hens, or I'll feed them some type of the meal. And I put them in. Now that's for my dry system. For my wet system, which is what this is, I'll feed them table scraps and stuff like that and let it drain. I don't use the liquid in the bottom. You don't know how long it's been in there sometimes, or the heat will make it spoil. So I just use this to drain it. I use the tea to fertilize my plants. Now, that's about it as far as what my demonstration today. Now I'm going to get into different systems, different bucket systems, the different beds that you can use, how to fatten your worms up if you're a fisherman, to make it so you have a lifetime supply of fish bait. I'm going to demonstrate for you my compost bins, how to break them down, how to make it real compost, and how I collect the stuff up and stuff like that. So, if you like worms and you like to learn these things, I'm going to show you. And look at these fat worms. Look at that fat worm right there. That's a big old fat worm. Been inside of a bucket in Georgia for about 2.5 weeks in the humidity that we have. That's 95 degrees outside in a bucket. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to be doing more videos about worms and composting and plants and stuff like that. Thank you for watching. And always remember, guys, be prepared for what gets in your traps. Thank you.